You're about to meet two of the most exciting baseball players in the whole world. From Cincinnati Reds, Charlie Hustle himself, Pete Rose, and a pitcher who could well be the most outstanding star to change teams since 1920 trade of Babe Ruth, Tom Seaver. Here, Pete Rose and Tom Seaver.
Behind him, right?
No, I played with him.
Oh, you were with him, huh?
Yeah, I was playing golf one day, and this gentleman was playing very, very well, and we started to talk about our kids, and he said, well, I have a boy who's with the Mets. I said, really, who? He said, Tom Seaver, and I thought he was pulling my leg. He's your dad. I was thinking, he's a heck of a golfer.
You didn't give him any strokes, did you?
Ooh, he's a super golfer. He was on the Walker Cup, wasn't he?
Yeah, Walker Cup 1932. He just retired, and he's still playing to about a 5 handicap. You got to get some strokes from him to play.
Well, Pete.
What's going on?
You're going to tear up our guys again, huh?
They got a pretty good ball club here in Philadelphia.
Oh, have they ever?
That's the nicest thing I ever heard Pete Rose say about another team.
Well, I hope they make the playoffs because, I think we can beat them easier than some of the other teams.
That's not the nicest thing you ever. How's it feel to have this guy on the team?
Well, anytime you can, come up with the premier pitcher in baseball, it's a tremendous asset for our ball club because, he is a great pitcher and he's a great guy to go along with, which means even more. He helps the younger players in our ball club, and he gives your bullpen a rest every 5th day, and he's supposed to, right?
I'm supposed to. Doesn't work out that way.
So there's a lot of things that a great pitcher does for your ball club, except, outside of just winning ball games.
We sit at home and see things like this happen, and see a Tom Seaver, whom we're used to seeing in a Mets uniform, suddenly walk out with the Cincinnati Reds uniform on. How did it feel in that first game? Were you nervous in the first
game in Montreal? I was very nervous. I couldn't be anything else but nervous. I think I've
3 hits shutout. Guy reached second base on him. He was nervous.
In the first inning, I was coming off the mound, and as I was going to the dugout, Joe Morgan patted me on the back. It's like playing for an all-star team, literally.
It really is.
And he said, "Slow down." He says, "You look like you're rushing yourself. You look like you're a little nervous." And after 10.5 years in New York and going to a club like this, I said, "Of course I'm nervous. What do you expect from me?" You look around, and I looked around in the first inning, and it's really, after 10.5 years, it was an incredible experience.
I've read where when you go home, your wife doesn't know whether you've gone 0 for 4 or 4 for 4, but if you make an error, she says that's all she hears.
Well, I hate to make errors. The errors are part of the game, but the mental errors, should never make mental errors. But I'd rather strike out 4 times a game than make an error to cost the game because, the pitcher's got all the faith in the world in you if you can catch the ball and throw it. I can't, if I go 0 for 4 and make a couple errors and lose a ball game, I leave it in the clubhouse. There's no sense in going out and beat the people up and want autographs, and the bus driver who's riding us back at the hotel, you can't take it out on them. It's not their fault. You see guys, they throw their helmets and they break their bats. And I did that one time a long time ago. I struck out on a bad pitch, and I took the bat and I cracked it. And it was a real good bat, and I realized that I already cracked it in half.
Hey, I need that thing the next time.
Right. It's stupid. You just. I think baseball is a great game because if you make an error on Monday night, you're a goat. You can be a hero Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Oh yeah.
Not me. If I hang a curveball Monday night, I don't get back in there until Saturday. I got to live with it all week.
One thing that must be nice is you don't have to pitch against
I know. We didn't get to that part yet. I don't have to pitch against all of them anymore. They're a fine baseball team. They can hit.
Oh, can I ever. Listen, your trade is the most controversial in years. Are you satisfied with the move, Tom?
I'm very happy. Going to a club like this, all that stuff is behind me, and I'd like to leave it behind me, and it's just the disagreements that I had with the people that I worked for.
It was a personality thing, wasn't it?
There were several areas of differences, and we were just at each other's throats, and maybe it's just the healthiest thing for everybody, for a divorce or whatever you want to call it. But I'm very happy the way things have worked out, and for a pitcher going to a club of this caliber, it's like a dream come true.
How about leaving New York, though?
Well, we haven't left the New York area, and it's a special town, as you well know, and it's
electric.
I don't think we'll ever really leave New York. We're in the metropolitan area, and I think we'll maintain that as our home. Even being from California, I think we are now Easterners.
What do you both think of the practice of renegotiating after a contract has been signed. Now, you have 2 more years to go with the Mets, right?
I had this year and next year, and that was a lot of things get misrepresented in the press, etc. And we talked about negotiations, and that was all part of it. It's a funny situation where we talk about negotiating beyond the contract period, and then somebody in the press will come out and say we want to renegotiate and all that jazz. It's the last 2 years in professional sports, baseball especially, have been, there's been a complete turnaround, and the players now have a say. They have some rights that they didn't have for 100 years, and it's changed the entire structure of baseball in the relationship between ownership and the labor force.
We were talking about that before we got Tom in our ball club, and some of the guys were talking about it. Some didn't think you should renegotiate, but I look at it like this. When he signed that contract with the Mets, he thought he was going to be playing in New York and things like that, and when he's asked to go to a new ball club, he has to move his family and everything, and if he wanted to renegotiate, I wouldn't have got mad. So if he wants to, it's not going to affect my play on the field. I mean, I want, if Tom Seaver's going to pitch for the Cincinnati Reds, I want a happy Tom Seaver.
Well, I do too, but I want a happy Philadelphia, and we missed him here.
Sorry.
Oh,
Jimmy Breslin.
Boy, we were saying a lot of prayers that the Phillies would get you. They were trying like all get out to get
Jimmy
you.
Breslin in New York said, he says, what's wrong with negotiations? He says, every time I write a good paragraph, I want to renegotiate with the editor.
Tell me, can you explain what a free agent is, Pete? Free agent. Explain it. The ladies, I'm not sure, understand that.
I don't know how many years you got to have before you can play out your option. What is it?
6.
If you got 6 years in the big leagues and you don't want to sign a contract with the ball club you're playing with, you play the whole year for the salary that they want to give you, or the salary they give you the year before with a 20% cut. If they want to cut you, they can pay you the same salary as you made the year before. And at the end of the season, you're a free agent, and they have a free agent draft, and any other team can draft you, and the team who drafts you negotiates with you.
Despite the fact that you have a year or 2 left on the contract, you're free to do that.
No,
you
you play out to the end of your contract. I think history is a little bit is important here. For 100 years or 103 years or whatever it was, a baseball player, when he signed a contract, played with that team until he either died, was traded, or whatever. I mean, if you had differences with a ball club, and they say, well, you'd say to the owner, I don't like my contract, or I don't want to work here, you couldn't go someplace else and do your job. I mean, you either worked there or in your trade, or you didn't work at all, and you worked under their conditions. And now players say, well, I don't want to work here, I want to work in California. I mean, a man that works in one shop, if he gets fired, whatever, he can go someplace. He can quit and go someplace else. That's not true in baseball, and it's just changed. Everything's changed in the last 2 years.
Are they buying pennants now, the big teams like Cincinnati, New York?
No, I think if you analyze our team, Mike, with the exception of Tony Perez, who we traded to Montreal for a couple of pitchers, we signed everybody that played in Game 4 of the World Series against the Yankees last year to a contract this year.
You miss Perez?
Oh, you're always going to miss a guy like Tony Perez. He has so much class, but Danny Dreesen did a tremendous job at first base for us. We can't blame our first part of the season slump on Tony Perez being in Montreal, because that's not fair. But he's a tremendous player, and he had over 1,000 RBIs. And I always talk about things off the field as important as on the field. Sometimes I think it's really important, because you play every day for 6-7 months. The last 2 years we were world champions, and it took us 8 months both years. So you play a lot of baseball, and you have to be compatible. You have to get along with each other when you play every night.
For me to keep that kind of a relationship here, I have to pause for these messages. You don't mind, do you, Pete?
No.
Nothing personal. With the Mets for what, 11 seasons?
10.5 years, Mike.
10.5 years. You think there's still such a thing as team loyalty?
No question about it. But it has to extend all the way from the top, all the way down through the players too. I mean, it's not just the guys on the field. And
It wasn't extending from the top, obviously.
It has to filter down all the way from the top. And
You didn't feel that?
Well, it dissipated. Once things got tough, in our labor negotiations, I was our shop steward, and I stood up for the guys that in our clubhouse, and I felt I had a responsibility to those men in that clubhouse as their strength to stand up in the union talks, and I was severely criticized for that. And from that point on, things began to, it was just
Criticized by whom?
By the ownership. And it was from then on, things just began to break down.
How did you respond to that?
I told them that I had a responsibility to my teammates. I said, those guys are depending on me, and the pension plan and the medical things that all we have are very important to a majority of players.
Better believe it. It's a very short career.
Exactly
baseball.
right.
I mean, you're not up there when you're 55. You're not pitching for the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, that's right. And I
felt
it.
Tom, you'll be in there playing.
I hope so. It's
only
my
going for his
15th
11,000th hit.
How about fan loyalty? What does it do to fan loyalty when you do what you've done?
Well,
how about the Met fans? How are
so
they
what has happened?
Yeah.
They were pretty upset, and the ownership got a little bit of razzing from all of the fans, and all the response that I've gotten in telegrams and the letters they've just wished me well, and I think they understood the situation as it was in New York and in the press, etc., and the roasting that I was getting from a certain member of the press. And the fans in New York are fantastic. They're beautiful people, and they were very understanding.
Pete, you just went through a whole
renegotiation. Well, the only difference this year compared to other years is that you didn't have to have a signed contract to go to spring training this year, as in the past. And I've always been hard to sign no contract, and it just took me a night before opening day, and the fans were taking up collections to pay my salary. And,
that's right.
Things like that. So
that's marvelous.
It was, made me feel real good to know that the fans were behind me.
One of the things, Mike, is that there's so much of baseball, so players and athletes, professional athletes, are like nobody else. It's all in the papers.
As well as being a great baseball player, Pete, you've got a flourishing career going in commercials. I see you all over the place.
Well, I guess, my association with a good ball club and the World Series champion.
How long did it take you to flip that bat over your shoulder and have it land just that way? It was really nice the way that falls.
We did that. That's a night commercial, by the way. It's one of the very few night commercials on TV. We did that at Fort Lauderdale Stadium, Yankee Stadium in Fort Lauderdale. It only took, we went to the set at 8 o'clock in the morning because we did a singing commercial during the day with Ganilla Hutton on Hee Haw.
Oh, yeah.
Then we did that one at night with her name was Betty Buckley. And we got back at 12:30, from 8 o'clock in the morning to 12:30 at night.
Peter, does anyone ever write you and say they like the way you look in that underwear commercial?
Yeah. That's the only way I could make people's magazine.
I wrote him. I thought he looked great.
I didn't look the worst in that group.
Was that
I tell
easy because you had a little
a
Milwaukee goiter.
Right. They call you in January and want you to do that. And you're preparing for spring training to get in shape. But
you're thinking about preparing.
Right. You're thinking about it. Right. But,
you got some commercials going, Tom, or you probably?
One of the last times I was here was when Bob Greasy and Gail Sayers and we were doing the stuff for Sears and Roebuck, and I'm still with the men's store in Sears, and that's just about all I do. I'm very happy working with them, and it's been a good relationship. And we get so busy, I try and stay home during the winter as much as I can. And